Welcome to quote unquote 8th anniversary Nasu plus Takeuchi FGO Famitu interview live translation! Woo! Oh, shit. We're gonna start translating. So you better get your ass ready. Okay? Without further ado, here we go. So, 8th anniversary coming in hot. Their first question is, it's been 1 year since Alcrid, aka Archetype Earth, dreaming for others to come. Last year, around the 7th anniversary timing, all of a sudden Archetype Earth has came in, and it was quite the surprise. First, can we get an information of why did you and what sort of experience did you have to encounter to get this all going? So, Nasu specifically says, after Tsukihime, a piece of blue glass moon, from here on out, Tsukihime R, after that's been released, I wanted to pull out Alcrid as fast as possible was my feeling. But, at this very moment, we don't have her conjuncturing, right, with the main story. So it's not easy to pull her out just yet. When that happens, I suggested on the 7th year anniversary in the festivities, why didn't we just show Archetype Earth as a name to, show her true motive, is what I suggested. All right, so that's Nasu. Nasu essentially said he wanted to pull out Alcrid as fast as possible, but it can't mix in with the main story yet. So it's not easy to pull her out. So on that term, on the 7th year, on a festivities, he decided, I think you should pull out Archetype Earth. Takeuchi says, I'm pretty sure fan anticipation and expectations were there as well. So I wanted to talk about to Mr. Nasu of timing of collaboration to bring her in. But Nasu stated that he wanted to introduce her in a different form. It might have been exciting if he would have said it as additional suggestions. And in the end, we came up with the idea of the Archetype Earth. It says the surrounding people, everyone who heard about it, definitely made quite the expectation of craziness. And yeah, things went haywire real quick, didn't it? Nasu goes, it says now that we still have Tsukihime our reverse side, right? Other side, still, holding back in its situation. I don't think it's worth collabing, is what I've stated. Because even if we were to collab with them, we still have to bring out ton of characters that we know and love, like Shiki, Shiel, Akiba, the fucking little shit. Akiha, excuse me. Yeah, multiple characters need to show up. So while thinking about it and everything, while brainstorming, our conclusion was that we should give Arcrid on the 7th year anniversary in this timing. Is what we've decided. Until the announcement was there, we were half ecstatic and half nervous. I'm really glad that the audience and the audiences and the crowd went their reaction made me at ease. So this is the interviewer. Speaking of Tsukihime R, in Alcurd's ability, you can now rewrite or essentially extract texture of sort. But does this have to do anything with the bleachification of the earth? In actuality, in order of operation, Alcurd's sequence was a lot faster. Because when we started the bleachification of the earth design, we're already seeing the ending of Tsukihime R's development, and we were in the final checks. And I was asking what we should do about the bleachification to Earth of Mr. Takeuchi after LB7. And so when he asked, he said, why don't we just, make it into the ethereal body type of Alcrid? So there it is, right? 交代アルクレッドと一緒だよって、という話をしました。そこから竹内が牛をたくさん白い絵を出してきて、こんなビジュアルでいこうと、なので物語につながっているわけではありません。あるいは登場すると、もう一人のヒロインも期待します。So, yeah, so essentially, my god, okay, so. Yeah, so whenever the bleachification or the whiteification of the Earth design, right when that was being developed, Tsukihime R was at its final state. When asking Takeuchi, how we want to draw this or depict this, Takeuchi just straight up said, make it into the ethereal, aka, essentially the light body version, right? Light body version of the Alcrid is the same thing. Is what we've discussed. Holy shit. So they just that's some next level spoiler shit right here, which is kind of wild. But just don't worry too much about it. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. Wow. From there, Takeuchi started to draw a lot of white pictures, right? AKA the white depicted area, and then became the quote-unquote white/bleachified Earth. So, story-wise, there's no technical connection. This bitch is a liar and a half. このビジュアルでいこうと、なので物語につながりがあるわけではありません。Essentially, Nasu's just like, oh, let me spoil you a very important part of the detail of what the bleachified Earth kind of stands for. And I asked Takeuchi to draw the, bleachified Earth, so therefore, なので物語につながりがあるわけではありません. And then Nasu specifically states here, so therefore, it has nothing to do with the storytelling, which... I mean, I ain't gonna lie to you, bros. This shit is spoilers. Like, this shit low-key confirm a lot of people's statement, right? Like, if I already didn't know what it was, this literally just Nasu admitting one of the gigantic-ass spoilers in FGO. And then he backed it up saying, oh, by the way, this has nothing to do with the story. And you're like, okay, all right, Nasu, chill. It's hard to explain this part because it's going to spoil you, like, a lot of FGO. But just understand that, Nasu's dropped some next level lore, okay? Speaking of Alcrid, we're excited to see and hear about the other heroine. All right, aka the interviewer asked, "Now that Alfred's here, I'm excited for the other one, the Red Moon." So Nasu goes, "Yes, if Heroine A comes, it's only natural forヒロイン A が出てきたなら B がいないのは嘘だよなとずっと思っています。So it says here, if heroine A comes, it'll be a lie if heroine B does not come. But unfortunately, we can't pop them up left and right. Okay, Nasu was just like, listen, I know she came. Don't expect more shit. Okay, at the moment. It says I would like to give it to you guys in a interesting service, in a fun way, and it's exciting, is what I think. So I'm gonna leave it up to my future self. Okay, so Nasu just literally threw that question, right? No. Nasu literally just threw the question saying every other character's future Nasu will take care of it. So he said later bitch. So we don't know. We don't know when they're coming. He literally threw it into his future self, meaning that he ain't answering the question. All right, bringing back the conversation. Archetype Earth. There's 3 different ascension. What was the hardest ascension that you've worked on? The very difficult one for sure was the first ascension, Princess Arc. It says, in Tsukihime's point of view, she has a very fancy closing. However, in FGO terms, she's the more quiet one, more docile one than any of the ascensions. I wanted to make sure that the essence of Princess Arc was shown and felt through the pictures and motions. And because of that, we had an entire design overhaul at one point. But when we looked at it, it didn't look like Princess Arc. It's Queen Arc, but you know. Queen Arc, I like to call it Princess. But yeah, because she didn't look like the Princess Arc that we've imagined. In basic features, we used the silhouette of the Princess Arc and try to use detail and fanciness to get all the cool designs that's necessary to depict who she was. And we made sure that the details were extra careful. That's Takeuchi talking. The Nasu specifically says, but my favorite is the second ascension. Yeah, specifically my favorite is the second ascension. When I saw the design wise, I thought to myself that in Tsukihime R, if a certain route was made, Aok would look like this 3 years later. And that's what the image that came to my mind when witnessing it. That can create, yeah, as a character, I think it can be unique all of its own. And I could write lines as much as I can left and right. And so therefore, I made this arc super happy-go-lucky. Parentheses, lol. It says, about the third ascension, if I could ask a question. Is this an Alcrid that didn't suck blood? AKA, is this an Alcrid that did not consume any blood in the first place? The Nasu straight up says yes. Technically, think of her as a girl who's been boxed in her castle for over 1,000 years. Around 1,000 years. That's the image we came up with. She's technically used and specifically used for a what if situation on FGO and tuned it up. She's the most pure Alcrid out of all three of them. It says, I am quite excited for Phantasm Moon as well here. And then Nasu answers, man, I too wish and would love to put that out. But but if that were to occur, then the true collab would be questioned and desired. But there are many things that FGO has to do very first. Once that's all done and over with, I think Phantasm, maybe a Phantasm-like carnival might come back again. So from here on out, it's going to be Tesca Toripoca, so LB7 and 6.5 spoilers, so be careful. If you don't know Phantasm Carnival, if you don't know, you've seen Fate FGO Carnival, right? It's the predated version, right? The quote-unquote Tight Moon Carnival. The Phantasm Moon is essentially Tight Moon Carnival, right? It's where all the Tight Moon IP does their shenanigan charade. Nasu says he wants to do it, but FGO has to finish a lot of things first. Once that's all done and over with, he's thinking about it. Okay? So from here on out, it's going to be 6.5 and LB7 spoilers with Tosca Toripaca 3rd Ascensions and others. Alright? Here we go. Tesca Toripaca's 3rd Ascension. Busting out the Noble Phantasm was a hard, working to the bone. Because, you know, mech bone. Phantasm Moon is a Sailor Moon arc, though? It's a parody? Well, yeah, I mean, essentially that's what they're asking. They want both, parody and Phantasm Moon, right? Which involves moons. A play on word by them. Last year we talked about Sherlock Holmes. シャーラック・ホームズが第2部第7章以降特に0部と期してその全ては第2部で配置の予定というお話がありましたが正直なシナリオはどんな内容でしたか? It says in the last year's interview, Sherlock Holmes was supposed to exit at LB7 is what you all have planned for beforehand. But if I can ask, what was the first scenario for him like before the change up to 6.5? Like I said, this is going to be LB7 spoilers, so just be careful. And actual prompt-wise, in actuality, the basis of what you've all experienced didn't technically change. If we were to make it into LB7, while conversating against David, he would show Holmes' true form. And we had to fight Holmes in the very end was the situation at Bay. To be perfectly honest, now that we think about it, and now that we've put a lot of things in LB7, I'm really glad that Toramu existed, aka 6.5. So it's just no matter what happened, fighting against Holmes was inevitable in a way. It says that is quite correct. We were planning on making him take the leave around this stage, but while we were creating and while we were coming up with ideas, the developmental staff came up with a young Moriarty. And because young Moriarty became a thing, it was only natural that he would to take the Holmes were to take the exit at Toramu. we made sure that Holmes was able to exit anywhere and any time in the story after Olympus.ご賞があればいつでも退場しておかしくなかったので、ストーリー主人には変更していきました。第2部の全体プロップから大きく変わったというのであれば、テスカトリパクの方ですね。So it says, yeah, so essentially Holmes was supposed to, yeah, essentially Holmes was, they changed the scripts a lot of the times. And then overall prompt wise, if you want to think about it, the script change was actually Teska Toripoka than Sherlock Holmes. 最初はあそこまで大物ではありませんでした。In actuality, yeah, Teska Toripoka wasn't a big shot like that is today. So at the very first Teska Toripoka wasn't a big shot. It's the fact that you would state that it's quite impossible to not. It's impossible to quite visualize him not being such a big shot. At the very beginning of the stage, he was a similar standing as Kamasoso, a very powerful enemy. But however, did not shoulder the entire theme and the weight of LB7. It says, Soto Nagata, in 2021, when I was trying to detail and finalize the plot for LB7, I've learned and researched about Teska Toripoka in the southern region. And when I had more understanding of the god of what Teska Toripoka was about, I instantly knew that this topic was completely over the head and it's not as simple as good and evil topic. And at the same time, Tajima Shou's design was amazing at first. That was also another reason. Because I saw and witnessed that, I was able to write what is LB7. Lol. So if you don't know who Tajima is, Tajima is a person who wrote. Let's go. Tajima Sho, yeah. Tajima Sho is the person who wrote a lot of things. My man is a manga illustrator and a designer. He worked on many things as follows: Bitch's Life, Brothers, Hunter Dark, Madara, if you don't know Madara, Multiple Personality of a Detective Psycho, Neo Devilman. And Neo Devilman is kind of like this. Neo Devilman kind of went hard. I ain't gonna lie to you. And last but not least, Robot, which is the Super Color Comics. He made many other things, right? Like he made animes and character designs. I don't know if you guys can see any of the pictures here. You got Galarius Ash, Gallon's Ronin, Kill Bill 3. He provided character design and artwork for Final Fantasy VII novel, Kids Are Alright, Turk Side Story, and some of them appeared in LB's 7. He's legendary, all right? When it comes to manga, the man is a legend in Japan, okay? And whatchamacallit. Really good. 田島氏に依頼した経験を教えてください。 So, can you explain and give us the experience when asking for Mr. Tajima? It says Tajima Sensei, right? Teacher Tajima is a legend, illustration and artist that goes beyond generations. A teacher that I have super respect for. There was some fate and circumstances of happenstance happened, and we were having a dinner or able to eat together. And while eating and conversating, he really just said, "If you need anything from me, you let me know," and that was it. And from there, I asked him if he would to draw Gilgamesh's illustration during the Tight Moon Fate's Day Night 15th anniversaries. So yeah, he apparently drew the Gilgamesh's illustrations in Fate's Day Night 15th anniversary's walk path, right? AKA the footstep. So it says, so did you contact him afterwards? Yeah, did you contact him afterwards after that Gilgamesh's illustrations? Takeuchi answered. せめて田島先生のマネージャーさんからまた何かご一緒できませんかとご案内をいただいたのです。Sometime later, right? Sometime later, Mr. Tajima's, yeah, teacher Tajima's manager called us and said, if there's anything you want, yeah, if there's anything you want to help or collaborate, we're willing to do it. The suggestion was there. When that came to my desk, I wanted somebody to discuss and argue and conversate about what we should do with Teska Toripoka. So I asked Nasu see if he can be in charge of Teska Toripoka and had a conversation with it. And then Nasu answers, when I heard the conversation, I definitely thought that Mr. Tajima Sho was one of the legend who can make Teska Toripogo the way he is. Because after all, and because of this, every time we asked for an image design, he gave us a banger and a nice and amazing rough draft every time. That was cool. All right, so essentially, yeah, so quote unquote, was the design it was the design that we currently have the first rough draft. And then Takeuchi answered, Nasu had a specific and clear image style for Teska Toripoka. So while telling what he kind of wanted, Mr. Tajima teacher drew what's necessary. And when those two ideas combined it together, the finishing product was already there. The first ascension is what we asked for him, and we adjusted by details, and what became. And if you don't know, they're talking about Teska Toripoka as the 5-star assassin, which is this guy. The first ascension. Right? テスカトリポカは物理の人間なので過度な飾りは必要ないという考えで第2ステージのジャガースーツは少し SF チックなでも飾り気のないダイバースーツというイメージをお伝えしました。そしたらまさになのものがしちゃったんですよね。And then Nasu specifically states that Tezuka Toribuka is not a physical person, right? Not a itemized person, not luxury, not person who has a lot of, jewelry. So by thinking of that, I asked him if we could get the Jagger suits on the second ascension to be more sci-fi, aka science fiction like, and I wanted something that has no additional ornaments as sort like a diver suits, and then next thing you know, voila! Exactly what I have stated and want came to fruition. Oh, that ain't it. The hell? There we go. Boom. Right? So this is the second ascension. Not a lot of, ornaments, not a lot of things, specifically a diver suit, but very mysterious and godlike. And Takeuchi specifically says, on the third ascension, though, we kind of let him loose, saying that if you want everything, go for it. I want to see him go ballistic, go monstrosity, crazy. And we kind of let him go. And Mr. Takashima went wild. And that's just kind of the hope that we wanted for the third ascension. Then next thing we know, we had a design that was a gigantic skull structured robot came out of nowhere. As a playable character, it was off the scale. So we used the design as the noble phantasm and asked him again for the third ascension with some restrictions. So essentially, this robot was supposed to be the third ascension because Takeuchi says, I want to see a monstrosity. I want to see some fucking bangers from the legend himself. And the dude said, all right, here it is, and fucking made the noble phantasm. So essentially, yeah, so Takeuchi was like, holy shit, this is too good to give up. So this model was supposed to be a playable character. But they put it in the noble phantasm. So that's kind of lit. So at one point there was a chance we could have played this Tezuka Toribuka robot Skullman. そのキャラクターデザインは、宝具として採用し、せめて3段階を作ってくれました。So yeah, instead of moving it as a third ascension, they moved it to the noble phantasm. And then Nasu says, this is in FGO. While you ascension, right? While your spirit ascension occurs, some of them becomes very fancy and really cool. And there's not a lot of servants or SSR that has a simple design on their third ascension. And to be perfectly honest with you, with Tajima Sensei's drawing and Tezuka Toripuka's gods and his divinity and his core, thinking about it, to be honest, that look and style was a possibility. But because the first ascension was more modern like look, I kind of wanted the third ascension for Tezuka Toripuka to go back to his official roots. Go back to his true self. But to be perfectly honest with you, I was at shock as well of how well it was received. Even the users and people specifically said at first it was kind of a letdown. I didn't understand. But once I started reading the scenario, I simply agree with the design choices. Is what they've said, so I have nothing but thanks for understanding the direction we went for, which is true. Because if you don't know the third ascension, he kind of goes from a modern man to like a like like dive suit ready into kind of like a really back to his roots, right? And then Nasu says, I mean, Takeuchi says, Mictoran was an irregular place of the world, above all else. On top of that, Teacher Tajima, aka the artist, right? Tajima sensei drawing this irregulariness and showing things as it was is phenomenal, right? Because it looked like it came from another world, the understanding and the explanation makes sense. After all, LB7 characters kind of shouldered their world on their own shoulders. After all, and that was a really good thing. Yeah, that was a really cool thing that we were able to create. It says yes. Everybody loves him to the point that we call him Brother Poka, right? Because if you don't know, Pokaniki, right? Brother Poka, Teskatori Poka, too long, so we call him Brother Poka. Yeah, everybody calls him Brother Poka and is very friendly as being loved by all. Teska Toripoka is Teska Toripoka 思うわけは自分で当たっていてめちゃくちゃいや今日が乗っているから現代風に言っているんだけど it says that man in basic functionality he likes to enjoy things after all. Whenever he said that's what Teska Toripoka thinks, um, is him kind of saying it to himself at the same time is excited on the modern way of life. But during Q&A 多分 Q&A で口調がここだけ違うんですかと主張されるからこれはあえてですって説明を入れたりしましたし So it says during Q&As, during the voice acting sessions, it says for some odd reason the wording, right, the acting here is a little off-putting than others. When I was told that, I just kind of told him that's how it is and explained him in on the joke. Specifically in front of ORT, Tesco Toripoka, who's on the highest tension, exciting for the chaos that's at hand, and you can see Iskari, who has who's honest and true, can't react. So yeah, they're just kind of talking about yeah. So okay. テスカトリバカと思うわけは自分で語っているめちゃくちゃ強度が乗っているから現代風に言ってるんですけど多分 QA で口調がここだけ違うんですがと指名されているからこれはあえてそういう説明を入れました ORT を前にして最高に乗っているテスカトリポカそれを聞いてうまくリアクションができない真面目なイスカリ君がいますって So essentially during this time, right? Nasu wanted to envision Teska Toripoka on his high horses, excited about everything, the festivities of the LB7's crisis shenanigans. And then he just kind of says that he's a man that enjoys things, right? In everything. あのセリフは何度も出てくるわけではないのに SNS では交流しましたね。Yeah, because in one point, I think it was at one point in the game, there was Teska Toripoka said, "This is what Teska Toripoka thinks," and it was fucking wild. Because Teska Toripoka referred to himself as Teska Toripoka, talking to others as Teska Toripoka, and he's like was on his high horses. So they're asking, why was that the case, and then the reaction of Iskari, who just can't catch up with his charade. It was pretty good. It says that specific voice line does not come out so often, but it went viral on the social media network. I don't know if I can find the voice. I think it is in one of the dialogues. Ah, 俺は本来ルーラーバザーカーだ。今回は優しいなのはてめえの都合で終了。俺は運がない。I can't find it. It's one of the voice lines that you hear. I can't fear. But yeah. ああいう風に会話の中でナチュラルに出てくるセリフが強く残るかもですね。And so it says, yeah, the quote unquote, these voice lines that will come out naturally and things that would go wild gets very impressionable to people. And then Takeuchi specifically says the picture matches the character description, and that character talking to himself to explain to himself was a very wonderful thing at hand, right? Lastly, I asked Nasu beforehand, how are you gonna pull this off? But he answered me with シノリが書いてる中に絵をずっと見ていると自然にそうなるんだ. It's that while writing the scenario, it just kind of becomes the natural norm. And then I noticed that he was trying to make something special because it's gonna be LB7, spoiler alert, right? Because there's technically four. I think there's 4 different Teska Toripokas. So the fact that Teska Toripoka specifically says Teska Toripoka thinks like this in Teska Toripoka ways is a fucking meme. Okay? Because it's a first person referring to a third person referring to the first person, which is Kek W. Know what I'm saying? To be perfectly honest, Teska Toripoka's voice lines and the voice line amount is actually 2/3 of the regular characters.あえてセリフの量をいつもの2分、3分の2くらいにしています。もっと表現がマシマシの言い方も、言い返しもできるけど、多分この人はスパッと言い切れる。So it says the reason why for that is because we could have made we could have made additional expression sheets for roundabout things. However, I sincerely believe that this Teska Toripoka will not fuck around. So this Teska Toripoka is able to say things on the spot, on the dot, without any bullshit. And because teacher Tajima's drawings, solid picture, fit FGO's motif, and that all combined together made FGO Teska Toripoka. And it's quite the wonderful aftermath, in my opinion. So here comes, right? Here comes more spoilers, okay? Here comes the grand spoilers. Here comes the servant spoilers slash LB7 spoilers. Then talking something new. During the dream sequence battle, Teska Toripoka came out as a shadow servant. However, he was positioned in the Grand Berserker. However, when he comes into Karudea's side, he comes in as an assassin. What exactly is the meaning of this, or if there's anything you can talk about? Nasu straight up says, Teska Toripoka was supposed to be a Grand Berserker at first. That was the given. However, because the old man of the mountains, aka the first Hassan, left the seat of the Grand, and there was no other people replacing it, he knew that he was the only one that could take its place. So he became an assassin to take that seat. Teska Toripoka is a very straightforward man. When there's anybody else on the job, he would have let them have it on the spot. However, when there's nobody else but him to do the job, he will take that job and do it sincerely. He's that kind of a person. So it says, then can I get a confirmation in wording that the current Karudea's Teska Toripoka residence, he is officially a grand assassin? It says, yes. I know that divine spirits becoming a grand is almost impossible. However, this Teska Toripoka is a humanoid base, so it's one of the exclusions. There's your Nasu bullshit right there, right? Because yeah, in technicality, Nasu stated in one of his fucking interviews that we can't remember. He specifically says divine spirits can't become grands. Then 5.2 happened. Then this shit happened, and then here's this fucking answer. Speaking of Teska Toripoka, jumping jumping a little bit ahead of ourselves. Yeah, talking about Teska Toripoka. This is another LB7, right? This is another LB7. Spoilers, okay? So be careful. I sincerely thought Murieru died on that spot. How was he able to survive that? And Nasu answers. It says, if you were shot in the middle of the brain, doesn't the bullet go through the left? Doesn't it go between the left and the right brain? So it should. It's essentially he's saying that if he gets shot in the middle, doesn't the brain go? Doesn't the bullet go through the brain? Right. Joking aside. Joking aside, when it comes to Munieru, the bullet has definitely fucked his part of his brain up. But because he has magical seal, right? Because he has magic seal, mage seals, and whatnot. He was able to be saved from that detriment. However, it did not guarantee him to be awake, right? To wake up. He was in a state where you needed a really powerful shaman that could, 冥界という生死の判断の薄い世界ですごいシャーマンがいなければギリギリ現在に戻れる状態なのでコトルイツがいないと全然蘇生生き返りはしませんでした。So yeah, essentially, what's the word? This is like super LB7 spoilers, but I don't know. Talking about the underworld and the definition and the identification of life and death, where the world of that caliber was very thinned, right? Very thin and very set in rules. In order for him to come back from that state, you really needed a powerful shaman to you needed a powerful shaman, and even if that, had a 50-50 chance to bring him back to reality. Therefore, if Kotomine wasn't there at the time, there was no way of revival. You say that, sir, but Kotomine specifically stated that he was not saved. And he talked about it as if he was not, he was not going to be saved. And then Nasu specifically answers, if you read the line, he specifically didn't say he failed. He never said he failed or he was not able to accomplish it. So essentially, Nasu saying if you read the wording that he says, he never once said he failed or he couldn't accomplish the task. It's just a Kotomine way of joking around, as always, saying that it's unfortunate, right? He says unfortunate ... but the parentheses goes, the fact that this couldn't hinder you all is unfortunate, right? It's the parentheses side has not been told. It's a Kotomine fucking, you know how it is, right? Kotomine fucking trolling us. All right. So moving on from Teska Toripoka, moving on from everything. We're going back to Olga Murray. Okay. Olga Murray and the Olga Murray と干渉した第7章の後の計画はあるのかthe Olga Murray's and its conversations and Olga Murray's interaction. Was she planned for LB7? And is there a plan for LB7 to bring her out in FGO world, right? During LB7, Yu Olga Murray adventured together with the protagonist. When that happened, it was quite a surprise. That occurrence, that turn of event planned from the very beginning. In a way, yes, because before we went into the final, before we went to our final arc, we wanted to make sure that you journeyed together with you, Olga Murray. That was the plan at first. However, because Teska Toripoka's existence became larger than ever before, we've added him plus Olga Murray as planned. The volume went above and beyond as we expected. Always. And then we thought we could pull this off. However, it did not. So therefore, we created a part 1 and part 2. Lol. So Nasu as always. So essentially, because the servant's existence was so big, essentially Teska Toripoka's existence became so fucking big and large in factors that it was supposed to be a one-parter, became a two-parter. So that was the reason. It says the reason why Olga Murray came into 5.2 as like a comedic factor and claimed herself to be the presidential of the Earth, but that was all in preparation for the seventh LB7 story structure. She is a threat, however, somewhere in the basic connotation, something's a bit off. It says even her scale is large and crazy, but her existence was like a commoner in a weird way. And in her basic nature, she always acts on according to goodwill. Yeah, she's kind of a great person, is what we've intended her as. But to have an ending like that was quite shocking. So it says, yes, that is quite correct. She grew up and she matured to a very charming like character, so it's quite unfortunate. During the Olympus creation arc, during the Olympus creation arc, Takeuchi, when I got the design for the presidential, the Earth presidential person called Olga Murray, I really wanted to let the fans and other people know how cute she was. And while holding that factor as a facade, 水面の下で我慢していたのに、もう、wait、早くみんなにこの可愛さを知ってほしいと思ってずっと水面の下で我慢していたというのに、もう、it says, yeah, I was excited for telling her, yeah, I'm excited for the fans and the audience to witness how cute she is. And while I was waiting that in anticipation and was holding myself back, the fact that we can no longer hear president's presence is quite ... So Nasu's a little, Nasu is saying that this was planned, right? The thing that happened to Olga, it is what it is. He's a little regretful about it, but it is what it is. And then the interviewer says, it seems like you're putting quite the smiley face. Ha ha ha. It says during LB7, you were able to control Olga Murray in the battle and even during the sequence. Is there a plan on to bringing her into FGO as a playable character? No. That's going to be an LB7 limited character, and that's the only process that we made. Because she's limited, and because she is LB7 only servant, we were able to get a permission from the system team that allowing her to have AoE attacks that no other servants have.ああいうサプライズがあるのとないのとではゲームの対する注入力感が違っていきます。また7章に出てくる相手は設定的に無敵を持ってしまっているので全員に無敵貫通を送ってくるユーオルガマリーというバックアップがあって初めて自由に使えるのです。ユーオルガマリーを入れてないと大変なことになる場面もあるのですがそのあたりは話を見ていただくと。It says, yeah, having those surprise like that in a video game like this, it definitely makes a difference. Wanting to play and not wanting to play, and also it was kind of a necessity. After all, there's a lot of opponents in LB7 that kind of has invincibility pre had on their set. So you Olga Murray, who can provide everybody with Invuln Pierce, it's a nice backup to have. And having her as a backup, you're able to kind of have a freedom of fighting however you like. And at the same time, there are some locations and areas, because of the absence of you, Olga Murray, struggle was real. But, yeah, those places, if you read the story, you would know. Her objective was to absorb ORT. But if she was in her full power and full control, was that a possibility and will that succeed? It says, if it's truly a 1v1 with no third-party interference, I sincerely believe the success was almost guaranteed. And Nasu just straight up said, yeah, だって僕らのアースシルエットだよ。Yeah, if it's 1v1, it would have been almost guaranteed. After all, she's our Earth silhouette. AKA, she's archetype Earth. That's, archetype Earth silhouette. She's our ORT. Quote unquote. That's an amazing. It says during the sixth soundtrack. During the sixth soundtrack, Olga Murray was the jacket, aka the front face, and designed her as such. And around her, there's a lot of celestial and shit. What is it called? It's a geocentric, and what's the other one, chat? What's the opposite of geocentric? Bum, bum, bum. Heliocentric, thank you. Because you guys need to work up on those. Because a lot of the circumstances changes a lot in FGO in its current state. At the same time, look at the... Can we see the jacket, chat? Do you think we can see the jacket for Volume 16? I mean, a volume. Yeah. I don't know if we can see the volume. Maybe it's in here. Nope. We can't see the jacket. Give me one moment. We'll show you the FGO soundtrack volume 16. Is it track volume 6? I think it was 6, huh? Oops. My bad. My bad. There we go. Baba, Baba Boy. Future. Alright, so there it is. So this is the soundtrack jacket that they're currently talking about, right? There's a lot of globes, right? A lot of globes and very celestial spheres everywhere, right? Very sophisticated drawings, kind of depicting all around. It was very impressionable illustration. What kind of concept was the base using such things? 地球大統領なので地球儀を囲まれている状態ですね。子供の部屋にいるユーオルガマリーというイメージで作品の中では何でも語ってきたテーマに載ったイラストのようになっています。とは皆さんが期待するような六角的な意味はありません。So Takeuchi specifically says since she is the president of Earth, right? She was just surrounded in Earth-like product, right? AKA, globes from all around the regions, all around the timeline, stars, planets, blah blah blah. Think of it as Yu Olga Murray in a room, in a child's room. That's child's room of Yu Olga Murray as an image concept. It's just a theme. Which is kind of a constant theme, and that's just the basic illustration being jacketed. Unfortunately, it is not something that you all have deeper meaning for. It's just not Takeuchi saying, "Listen, stop reading too much. This shit's not that deep." It's exactly as you see in the picture. It's just Olga in a room surrounded by glow. David and his precious 5 minutes. Feelings for his ally. Next, I would like to talk about David, if that's perfectly okay. Ever since the existence being shown and the conversation we had with Mr. Peperoncino, it almost feel like he had an impression that he was able to see the future. What sort of an ability does he really have? So it says, to tell you clearly, he has a really strong perception. That's about it. He chooses his life that every day he only is able to store 5 minutes worth of memory. And so he is able to future predict and calculate to a magnificent degree because of this. The reason why he visited Peperoncino in the fourth Lost Belt is because he understood the man that is Peperoncino will waste his life on others. That was to be predicted and known for. So while he is still there, he wanted to say his last greetings and he wanted to say his last hellos to him. The 5 minutes, can he choose? The last 5 minutes that he gets to keep, can he choose that on will? It says, in actuality, what he keeps and what he cuts actually gets chosen at the very end of the day. It's not like a moment to moment, pieces by pieces. He can pick 5 minutes. Yeah, he can pick a specific 5 minutes, but the other 23 hours and 55 minutes has to be eradicated in exchange of that. Whichever is the rough one is up to each individual, I believe. その5分間に関しては、オルフェリアについて割りた1日分にも満たない時間は、ネルなプレイ後の印象で受け取っていいのでしょうか。第2部ではこの彼のやつと思える、第2章ではこの彼のやつと思える人が結構デイビッドのことを知っていると、すごく仲間、感情を思いだったと分かるようにしました。あれは第2が始まってからの話ではなく、体が来てからなので、そこのところからちゃんと仲間のことを考えていきたいから、家族がいてから、デイビッドが仲間思いだったから、いや、デイビッドからすれば、家族を殺す理由がないからです。家族が追いつかれたらですけど、でも主人公は家族たちはミンチにしたと言いましたよね。あれは主人公的に気持ちを盛り上げようとしたんです。自分で本気で殺しに来いという一周戦で、ただデイブとしても天使の星に囲まれた時点で家族は助けられない。How far did we go? Yeah, so speaking of 5 minutes, whenever he talked about Oruferia, he specifically says, um, it says it's not worth the time that can fill an entire day. Right? 1日分にも満たない時間. And yeah, time worthy that doesn't fill up an entire day. That exact wording, can we get that concept and that expression, understanding him, and was that implemented also in LB7 as well? It says during LB2, a lot of people would think David was a very heartless and cold man. So we wanted to make sure that once you've learned David, he was a lot more caring about his allies than anyone expected. This was not just the beginning of season 2 starting. It's actually started right when they met each other in Catardea. From there on, he thought about everybody. He was a very ally kind of person. Is that reason why Kadok was alive? Was it because David was a very ally caring person? And Nasu specifically says no. In David's perspective, Kadok was a not there was no reason for him to kill Kadok. However, if Kadok assaulted him without any reason, there would have been a different story. But he specifically told protagonist that he eradicated Kadok and the others. Why did he say that? The reason he specifically said those words was to make sure that protagonist was amped up. He wanted Protag to come at him with full force. to the point that he wanted the protect to come at killing intent. It was just kind of his own way of bringing out his emotions. However, even David's perspective, after being surrounded by, after being enveloped by the relic of the angels, he already knew that Kadok was not going to be saved. It was completely out of his thought process, and it was unexpected that he was alive to this day, is what I think. Last but not least, David specifically said to Teska Toripoka that he likes movies. What kind of genre does David actually like in the movie format? Yes, that'd be easy to answer. He likes American movies that he always watched with his dad. If I were to give an example, it's going to be like a very heavy story. Clinton Eastwood type of story. There's probably a couple movies that was meant for children at all, but David's father always watched what he wanted in basicality, and he watched together. 身をもたして投じた ORT どうしようもないの絶望との戦い It says ORT that came in with full anticipation and full roar. A battle that was despairing no matter where you look at it. これまで設定やイラストのみが存在していた ORT を FGO メインストーリーで本格的に登場させた理由を教えてください。It says ORT who only known in settings and illustrations and mini stories. Can you give us a reason why you wanted to use it in the main scenario of FGO? To be perfectly honest with you, because it's FGO, we were able to pull it out. We can't pull him out unless it was not FGO. Because if you were to pull it out in a Tsukihime world point of view, wait, 月姫の世界視点で出したら、それこそ月姫でやるなという話になっていますし、それぞれの世界の終わりにかけていく FGO だからこそ出せる存在なのですよ。Nasu specifically says because it was FGO, we were able to pull out ORT. If we were to pull out ORT in a Tsukihime vision, right? Then it becomes a Tsukihime story that needs it to come out. However, FGO that talks about going at the end of each world, right? それぞれの世界の終わりをかけていく FGO だから aka Nasu straight up says it's an FGO because we get to see worlds end and we kind of witness that. We were able to pull it out. Our very first objective was to pull out ORT advent types at the end of LB7 and fighting it. That was our original goal and concept. So you were planning on ORT fight from the very get-go. ORT 戦あるし、選手は ORT 戦いしさえ書けばいいだろうと考えました。でも南極の上位に勉強するワード、面白くて、最後的には SF なタイプムーンの観察で正しいマヤ文化でリノスという人類やマイヤという格な性能をせいて6019の時間があればこうなるよねと思考実験をした形です。At the very first, Nasu specifically says LB7. If ORT fight was specifically drawn and written I think everything would have been all right. However, while researching the South American lore, Southern American and the Southern Hemisphere lore, it got very interesting, and I have it excited. And so at the very end, it kind of became a sci-fi type moon vision of um, South America, and wanted to mix the right culture and right lore together. So therefore, we now had Dinos as a humanity, and Maya, having Dinos, having Mayans, and AKA the uh, extraterrestrial life form, and using the 66 million years, this would become a certain scenario. And while thought processing and thought experimenting and brainstorming, that's kind of what LB7 became. ORT's individual designs. How did that work? Can you give us an explanation? あれは正真正銘の怪物だ。Right. He says South America, but in Japan, South America counts as Central America as well. So in Japan there is no Central. There's just North and South. But you already know the location is towards the South region. 10年前からオースに行ってたのですが、円盤が本体にあることをお伝えておらず、PS プラザには雲の方が本体だとごまかしてしまいました。ごめんね、雲の部分は日光系したら剥がれてるみたいなもんだよと説明していきました。てっきりもともとあった ORT のイメージで行くかと思ったら、ナスからのデザインを入力したいという提案があった。そこから仕込んでいた P ファズラさんにお願いして、変身部分を決めて何度かやり通してあの形まで行った。So yeah, it says please explain about ORT, right? How was ORT designed? It says, I kept telling Mr. PFALZ. From here on out, I'm going to say PFLAS. All right? I kept, from 17 years ago, I told Mr. The artist, PFLAS, that its existence is a cylindrical UFO, right? AKA, what do you call this? The fucking, Mbang. It's how do you what shape is UFO in, right? What shape is UFO, chat? I don't know the shape of the UFO. It's not a circle. It's not a sphere. It's sauce. Thank you, King. Yeah. So I told artist P Flaz that this creature is a saucer life form. Okay, saucer life form, but he, but he said that shit 17 years ago. But he thought, but he thought the spider was the main body, and we had a little miscommunication. My bad. You have to think of the spider form like a skin, right? A skin that's you're peeling off from a sunburn is what I've explained to him. So yeah, 17 years ago he said it's a saucer-like creature. But P Flash, he won't remember shit from 17 years ago. So he recreated the character as he recreated the character as he recreated the character as a spider-like being, and we had a miscommunication. I'm sorry. You have to think of the spider area as like a dead skin kind of flinging onto your skin after a sunburn sequence, is what I've explained him. Lol. てっきりもともとあった ORT のデザインイメージで行くのかと思ったら、ナスからのデザインをリニューアルをしたいって提案があった。そこから試作を固めて P プラスにお願いして、変身部分もまとめて何度かやり通して、あの形まで突き止めました。So it says, I thought for originality, we're going to use ORT's OG image, but Mr. P-Flaz wanted a design renewal. Wait, Nasu からデザインをリニューアルしたいの提案あった。Oh, Nasu requested from a renewal of the original design. By doing so, we've talked to artist P Flaz and including the transformation sequences, and was able to conversate over and over, left and right, and we were able to make the shapes and the character that you now see. During the battle between ORT, you can clearly see the protagonist's facial features changing dramatically. How many did you exactly make or prepared in the final project? Takeuchi says 4. 4 in actual, like, just straight up 4. Nasu said it was a necessary thing for sure. I know it was an impossible task with Takeuchi at the very moment, but I asked him because there's a difference between witnessing your protagonist changing facial features versus just saying it in text. Hey, your face looks awful. It says during that battle, everybody was going to reach their limit. It says so individual people trying to look out, or at least trying to put up a facade, were to be just liars in general. It's a very hardship circumstances, but he has to pull it off. I wanted the players to feel in real time, and the protagonist to feel the pressure of real time that this event sequence, even if you were able to overcome 7 lost belts, it was the most hardest thing possible. In actuality, there was a final picture of protagonist practically at its end. The illustration was planned out. The 5th one was supposed to be protagonist all worn out illustrations, but Nasu specifically says if we were to show that, players' feelings won't still tense up and will not be very useful. So he specifically stated that he wanted a picture that felt pressure, but even if they were tired, it looks very menacing and ready to fight it off, is what Nasu has demanded. And with adjustments, those were the 4 illustrations. 4 illustrations being told. He says the last picture was definitely protagonist in his trance state, wasn't it? Like, trance. And then Nasu specifically says, yes, after all, it was a battle against, using all the servants, you were fighting an extraterrestrial's strongest light form. It was a final battle. So we definitely needed to showcase the expression in that way. 戦いのうちの激しさにおいては、この先、これを超えるものはないとあらかじめて決めていました。And then, yeah, it says here, by using the fat, it needed to be done like that. The intensity of the battles and the craziness at hand. We knew for a fact that there's not going to be something that would overwhelm this. So Nasu is specifically saying that they're not going to do this shit again, right? This is essentially the battle of the century. It's a one-time big-ass battle. We knew for a fact that there won't be a battle that is more harder than this in this chapter, right? As a protagonist, not only yourself is worn out, but you used heroic spirits as sacrifices. So your both body and mind was beat up into pieces, and it was in peril. But above all else, we made sure that the expression showed strong will and conviction to pull it off. Yes. And after that intensive fight, then came out the humanoid structure form of Alt Sivolba came in. Nasu says, To be honest with you, during the plot creation sequence, Alt Sivolba was not supposed to have a heroic spirit form. During the scenario's final form and the final adjustment while drawing and writing the scenario as follows, that character kind of just naturally existed and became that. And so immediately I asked Mr. P-Flas for a rough draft. And from the rough draft, we used the humanoid form that we used a humanoid form that we dropped from the rough draft sequence. Essentially, this one, because I bet one of the renewal draft was this, and then Nasu specifically saying that it's supposed to be a saucer creature instead of a spider creature. I think they pulled this one at the last minute and said, "Hey, we're gonna use this for Alt Sibolba." Uh, it says I didn't know that it had a form and a structural sequence of a humanoid structure. It says please understand that ORT, in order for it to survive, and if there is a method or a possibility of it way to survive, it will definitely use that. It's kind of a machine that would always choose and constantly choose an option that allows the creature to survive if any means necessary. So, by becoming a humanoid structure, it knows なので人間形態になることで生き残れるならそうするはず. So therefore, if it can survive, even if it becoming a humanoid type, it would do so just to survive. And then on top of that, it would use the humanities laws and copy and paste the entire history from Big Bang and onward, simultaneously simulated and created facade world that itself became a heroic spirit, and then from that facade world create a summoning system that summons him from itself, using the world itself as a catalyst. And that is kind of the reason why he pulled off that last impossible sequence at the very last minute. Essentially, this talks about the very last moment, where after we defeated ORT, unfortunately, Sheba fucking witnessed the fucking quote unquote Alt Shabalba which essentially was because Alt Sibarba copied humanity's laws and using humanity's laws to simulate an entire different world just on that moment in that million seconds. Started from the Big Bang, created a simulation where he was a heroic spirit, and created a world in order to resummon itself by using its corpses as a catalyst to become AKA Shibalba. Was able to use some next level loophole system and created things on the spot. It's like creating spider webs. Takeuchi says it's really cool, right? まずは雲型の A の絵を作って、それがなんとかなったら次の雲の素材を作って、それも終わってようやく UFO 状態だ。なんて思っていたら NASA が今度はシバルバーだと言い出して、ははは、一番山根状になると思ったので早めに動かしてもらっていたのですが、開発にとってもいつまでも ORT が襲ってくる状態でした。I says, first, we were told to ask a spider formation A. And then on top of that, we were going to create a spider formation B. And then after all that was done, we would get the UFO saucer formation. I thought it was over. Then Nasu came out of nowhere and says, next up is Sebulba. And that shit came out of left field. Lol. I knew that word that he stated was going to be the problem above all else. So we made sure that we moved on to double to make sure that things were done fast and efficient. To be perfectly honest with you, I'm pretty sure that even I and even the development team felt like ORT kept assaulting us as well as in game. It says even the development team had a quote unquote rough yeah, even the development team had a rough little the war of attribution, didn't it? Yeah, the fact that Alt Sebulba came in as a grand foreigner and came in as Sort was quite the surprise as well. ORT 以外ありえないなって。So it says, well, there is a lot of grands in each individual class. So to be perfectly in a foreigner, I'm not going to lie to you. There is no other class to be a grand foreigner than ORT. Sorry, Abby. Sorry, Cuckoo. So Nasu says, sorry, Abby. Sorry, Cuckoo, right? So therefore, that in technicality, at this very moment, the only grand foreigner servant is ORT. ORT の決着のつけ方は最初から思い出し、そうですね、あそこまでやったやつを人間が倒しても納得できないだろうと思っていたので、どうしたら倒せるかと考えた結果、ORT しかないと。The ending, the finale battle, in order to finish ORT once and for all. Was that planned from the get-go of sort? It says yes. The fact that this monster did so much things, so much things and so much effort to be defeated by a mere mortal, aka human. It wouldn't have been very satisfactory or understandable. So therefore, the only person that could finalize it, I think it was ORT in the end. Another spoiler drop there. In the RPG circumstances, I feel like this is the hidden boss that's stronger than the last boss. It says at that current moment, I didn't know how to exactly defeat that thing once and for all, and I never imagined it. So, to be perfectly honest, I now get it, and it does make sense. It says monsters cannot be defeated by humans. That's why they're called monsters. It says to think about it like that. Going back to Kamasoso, he who actually defeated Ort once is yeah, would be called up into questioning. But please understand, he himself was an amazing person as well. Lol. It says, I am very wondering how he was able to defeat ORT. Is there a possibility to hear that? After all, population spirit and strength was imbued on him, and was able to obtain the flesh that never withers, right? AKA immortality. Then from there, it was just a physical battle, one after another. He knew that there was no method in a way to just keep beating him, but by infinitely attacking him over and over. Kamasoso was a lance user. So in the very end, he was able to struck the heart of its core in one pierce. He was able to concentrate his spear into one location and kept poking it and keep piercing it. So essentially, it says Kamasos was a Lancer user. So the very end, when everything occurred, he landed this one shot with his lance. He landed a shot with his one lance that was all of his might. That landed on the heart of the saucer's core. But during that time, his entire body was eradicated. However, except the right hand that held the lance. And because of that, ORT Saucer was fallen down at Shibalba. When fighting Kamasoso, the line, this one time, this one point, that specific voice line was the recreation of that moment, and I've asked them to be added to this voice line. ORT の棺桶はカマソッサが撃ち抜いた槍の跡なんですよ。The ORT's damage, the corpse, the coffin, is the example in the aftermath of Kamasoso able to pierce it with his lance. ORT's corpse fell into that hole. And what players saw in the coffin was ORT's outer shell. It says, wow, that's quite the intensity topic you brought upon. It says, in technicality, Sibalba, Siboruba にはカマソッソの槍とその槍にこびりつくような残された右手が残されていました。It says, in Sibalba, all there was left now was Kamasoso's lance and the right hand that never let go of the lance as if it was glued to it. Kamasoso cannot die, so from there he started regenerating. While he was regenerating, Kamasoso used all of his strength and filleted, right, aka tried to rip ORT open and pulled out its heart. And Maya, right, Maya retrieved it and made it the source of the sun, was the flow of the conversation. If you don't know, Maya's a Gaia, okay? And then yeah, that became the sun, the source of the sun. ちなみに ORT を一回殺したリノスがいましたが、あれは誰だったのでしょう? It says from what I've heard and what I've read so far, there was one person, a specific Dinos, that actually killed ORT once. Who was that exactly? Of course, it was Tepe. Tepe です。原神の、特殊の武部がテペを空に上げた後、突しながらすれ違いざまに命を削ったのですが、代償として半身を壊れてしまいました。そこをイメージし、いや、イベントシーンにするのも良くないので、文章だけで見せる形にしました。So it says, while Vukubu was doing his damnedest, right, while injured, he brought Tepe up in the sky, and after he was up in the sky, しながらすれ違いざまに命を削ったのですが、in order to, in order to do the blow, he had to shred his own life. Unfortunately, as a result, he lost half of his body. However, drawing that in an event scene would not be good, so we've only just depicted it in picture, right? Because if you don't know, there was a sequence where you would know that ORT's break bar, one of the break bar was gone. We already know it was Tepe. Because you hear the quote unquote 気境のようなしで空を避けという表示をしているのブクブかなと思っています。And so yeah, they didn't want to give you an event scene, but they wanted to give it to you in sentence and show it to you in that. 空をかけ it says yeah, just going after flying through the sky as if there was an intention, as an expression was being shown. So I thought it was Vukubu that actually killed it. It says, please understand that Vukubu, Tepe can fly to an extent. And plus, using the proper human histories magic that he learned, using the ga 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 ga, like a maneuvering it like lightning. And afterwards, if you listen to the break sound effect, you'll definitely understand it. Yeah, if you guys don't know, there was a sequence of event where you hear a flying noise and like a lightning fucking insertion in order to like fight against ORT. And then Nasu specifically states that if you don't know, the sound effect was actually used exactly in Melty Blood type Lumina when a certain character, aka Shiki, a certain character's demonic, not demonic, the eyes of death perception, right, aka the Chokushi no Magan. Yeah, the mystic eye that Shiki has, right? The mystic eye effects, activated sound effects was used during the LB7. ここは今の話なので知らなくても問題ないのですが、yeah, this is just a operational stat problem. operation staff's little gimmick. So it's technically you don't need to know, or other people don't need to know. But the fact that people actually figured it out in one shot was actually very scary online. Yeah, because um, I didn't know, but that sound effect did sounded familiar, and a lot of the Type Lumina fans that played LB7 was just like, hold up, that blade sequence was 100% when Mystic Eyes was popped off, which was pretty cool. All right, so give me 2 minutes. I gotta piss. I'll be right back. So from here on out, we're gonna be talking about Paper Moon and onwards. Sorry, had to BRB there a little bit. I had to get some sugar so I can translate. I need sugar intake. Ugh. Ah. Going over Paper Moon and Sosho 2 is under construction. From here on out, I would like to talk about Sosho 1 if we can. Sosho 1, the imaginary compass realm, inner realm of the Paper Moon. Imaginary number of the compass of the inner realm of the Paper Moon was very essence of mixation between Fate Stay Night and Fate Zero. Past creations mixed together. It was quite intriguing. Yes, the writer in charge wanted to do something like that. Sosho definitely has Sosho and 1.5 will have a very similar theme if shown, but I want to make it. I wanted to make sure that the author had strong will and the go have a creative freedom to do what they want. 奏者も1.5部の同じように、小する、いや、増内とするテーマあるけど、so yeah, just like Shosho, just like 1.5, there is a theme that has to follow. But we wanted to accept more creative, we wanted to accept more creativeness from the writers and the artists and whatnot. So I told every single one of them is that I want you to do your very best, even that can almost rival, if not beat, your best product. Is what I've asked them. It says, yeah, a lot of the character settings in the past creation definitely has been traced, in my honest opinion. It says technically this is a yeah, technically it was the world of a simulator. So in meta terms, in technicality, I told the writers and the authors that we're probably going to recreate a Holy Grail war that might have happened somewhere somehow. 何も実際にあった、and then on top of this, even Ronnie herself specifically stated that she used a Holy Grail war that happened as a reference. Speaking of Ronnie, if Ronnie's plan was working, and if she has completed and actually finalized her plan, was the world able to be saved? It says, we would have a lot of forces. Fighting power wise, we definitely would have had an easier time. But it's very questionable that if those additional forces would reach the final boss. What ルター英語が増えても最終的には管理するし、どんどん実化していくはずですから。It says, yeah, even if we had alter egos increased at the very end, yeah, at the very end, the final problem would not be solved, and little by little, you would lose in the battle of attrition, right? Essentially, you would have another problem. Right? During Social 1, Ronnie series coming in is one of the, in my opinion, one of the more additional points in the story. And then Takeuchi specifically says, ラニー12以外のシリーズは全ての螺旋岩の開発スタッフにデザインしてもらいました。So, besides Ronnie 12, a lot of the Ronnie series were developed and designed by the Lasengle development staff. In Social 1, there's a lot of artists and a lot of NPC they were in charge of. It was made with love and very strong passion, so I would like everybody to keep an eye out. And then Nasu specifically said, at the very first, our first idea, right? My first idea was I wanted a Sakura series. However, if we were to add actual CCC ingredients into this story, the scenario will go all over the place. so they first planned to be a Sakura series, but if you add more, CCC source in the current or Paper Moon, shit would have been all over the place. So it didn't happen, is what Nasu is saying. At the same time, there was another series. Yeah, there was another series that involved MASH. So instead of Ronnie series, we might have gotten a MASH series. That would have been fucking insane. It says if it was MASH, I think a lot of people would have taken some shocks. It says I agree with you. At the same time, um, it's going to be very interesting and difficult to adjust things on those spots and to explaining it as well. So that's kind of the reason why best results was that we're going to use Ronnie. And we conversated and discussed with the writers and decided to create a mass production of Ronnie series. And Takeuchi specifically says, "Oh no, ooh, Takeuchi, let's go." So it says, when it comes to Ronnie series design, I wanted to give, yeah, ライターさんから全員違う方にお願いして個性的を出してほしいと思います。We've asked the writers that every single one of them, everybody would have a different personalities, right? Different personalities and different quirks is what we've decided. どうしたものかと悩みましたが、何シーズンではライターさんが全員違う方向にお願いして個性的を出してほしいという動きをした。Oh, okay. So writer during the Ronnie series design, the writer specifically asked us that they wanted the Ronnie series to all have different personalities and quirk. That was that was the request that we've received. We didn't know how to solve this problem. However, Lasengle recently increased in the staff. So we were able to draw a lot more characters, and the timing was kind of perfect. So if this doesn't tell you, right? Right, if this doesn't fucking tell you that they got more staff right there, right? So Takeuchi has confirmed that they have additional staff members, which is good. This is a good part to underline right here. That Takeuchi has confirmed right here that Lasengle staff has increased. Feels good, man. 活用するキャラクターを描こうと愛情を込めてクリエイトしてくれた結果です。It says, let's create a character that will be functional and PogChamp. And yeah, because of their creator, because of they created with love and passion, the result was those series. Every single Ronnie was very cute in all aspects. そしてあんな目に合わせたライターは後で反省室ですね。It says the fact that the writer made those amazing characters the way they did in the story, we made sure that the writer, the writer, the author goes to the quote unquote detention, right? Essentially, room to repent. Keck. And then Takeuchi says, adding those to perspective, this story was very interesting. In a different, completely way from LB7, the main scenario was able to be painted and created, was pretty awesome. To be perfectly honest, personally, my very favorite is the Hotosoaka. The Hotosoaka's Sakura and Medusa. Which one is Hotosoaka? Illustrator, Morning Glory や Free Sheeting など様々なクロッシング。Oh, it's It's the part where I think it was this. Yeah, I think when they were together, is Takeuchi's favorite. It says the fact that 5-star Medusa was to be shown was unexpected. It says Nasu specifically says, we've discussed this before. Before FGO ends, we wanted to introduce 5-star Medusa. However, in current Takeuchi's schedule, it was very difficult to implement it. However, yeah, but on top of that, since the class was Saber, we were thinking to ask somebody else, and we went for that direction and asked for their assistance. And so, first and foremost, I wanted the concept to the writer in charge of the story. And then afterwards, I wanted Takeuchi to choose the illustration to be trusted with. It says, first and foremost, we were planning her to be a 4-star at most. But the illustration that Mr. Hotosouka drew up was so amazing that the 5-star Medusa actually was born. Hey, and then watch this, right? After Takeuchi ended, the interviewer says, we're yeah, one day we're hoping for swimsuit Medusa. And then Nasu goes, oh, lol. And then Takeuchi says, we'll keep it in the back burner, right? We'll look into that. It says during Social 1, there were new Karudia member staff being drawn up and now being seen. Will we able to see the rest of the staff members being drawn up as a character? Nasu specifically says that particular person was very involved into the story, so it was a special case. In actuality, we're not planning on it, essentially is what they're saying. You gotta understand, Crossdale. Even if it's on a back burner, they're thinking about it, right? That's that's big brain. That's already a step further than whatchamacallit, right? Step further than not acknowledging it. So it's good news. It says, if possible, can we get a word or two about the Show 2? Nasu specifically says it's coming along. I be patient. During the teaser promotional video, there were text words like Tokyo. And so we're expecting that the location that we're going to be facing is Tokyo. Is it gonna be is there a roundabout possibility of Shinjuku being a location? And Nasu specifically says it's not Shinjuku. Um, I think when you see it, you'll understand in many different meanings why it's in Tokyo. 次もいろいろ遊び寄っていて大変そうだ。頼んだぞ、螺旋後のみんな。So it says the next one is also rambunctiously going to be crazy. I'm counting on you, people of Lasangle. Oh, dude. Dude, yeah, he just confirmed the Watcher exists, bro. Anyway, sorry. During the PV, there was a class card illustration of the fourth one for a mere moment. During Sosho, can we say that there's 4 parts to this instead of 3? It says everybody's probably predicting about this, but the timing of when it will come up, when it will be shown, I think if you're excited and if you're anticipated, and if you're, it's essentially if you would enjoy that anticipation. It says, while working on FGO, while working on this amazing project, there were a lot of classes that technically don't join in on the Holy Grail War. So before the game ends, by enjoying the story, you get to learn the class's existence and why the class is what it is. 許される理由を説明するべきです。それは各話でもあります。それを書いているのが醤油。Okay. So yeah, essentially Nasu is saying they're going to the individual class that should not be available in a regular Holy Grail war. Their existence and why they should be forgiven, right? And why they're continue to exist. As a responsibility, that's what I'm doing. And so that's what Shosho is about. So it's essentially, as we all know, and if you did know, and Nasu just confirmed it, right? That Shosho is about explaining the extra class, right? And why they were there, and what exactly they are, and having a fully fledged understanding of that class. And then yeah, so that's why you're writing Sosho because of this. It says yes. At the very first moment, I kind of wanted a story or just an implementation of just explaining individual class right off the bat. But if I were to do that, it won't wrap up very cleanly. So therefore, we've decided to create a story talking about individual classes. And so we've decided that from 2023 onwards, we were going to show Sosho. And we went for that direction. If you were to play Paper Moon, if you were to play Paper Moon, you'll enjoy it as an FGO content. And you will starting to understand how we would say goodbye with individual classes. Oh, interesting. And then the interviewer asked a really good question. It says, "Will Moon Cancer be included to this all extra class story added that you have prepared?" いえ、ムーンキャンサーは、まげんおまけお、いえ、まきえんおまけ漫画というか、EX というか、存在自体が、かん、眼知違法、いや、違い違法ですから、プリテンダーは元のクラスがあった上で化けているので、歪みはありません。シルダーは定的な話を作るわけにもいかないので、そうきたかと思ってもらえるやり方を予定しているのでお見せください。So it says, yeah, will Moon Cancer be considered as an extra class storytelling that you'll be giving us? It says, no. Moon Cancer is a exception with an exception. Existence of a side story EX. Its entire existence is lawfully illegal, right? It itself is a outside legal standards. Lol. And at the same time, pretenders are practically a character that has already a class putting up a facade on top of it. So there is no actual disturbance to it. Shielder, for a shielder, 単体で話を作る. There's no reason for us to write a story just for one person. So, そうきたかと思ってもらえるやり方を予定しているので And so this is how you we want the audience to see it as this is how you did it. So please be prepared for excitement that is to come. So Nasu essentially here is saying that he's not going to do Moon Cancer because that shit's Keck W. He's not going to do Pretender because in technicality, Pretenders are characters that has already a class that is just putting up a facade. And Shielder is MASH, but aka if you know FGO, MASH is literally the end story of the story that's gonna explain FGO. So yeah, so he's not gonna do Pretender, he's not gonna do Moon Cancer, but you know, he's not gonna do it as a main story, right? He's not gonna do it as a main story, but event-wise, he'll probably add some bullshit or two, no problem. And Shielder is FGO. Don't worry about it.エクストクラスを用意した結果生まれた歪みをエクストクラスを含有して結果生まれた歪みを総書で正していくはずなのにその直前にソドムビーストドラコービーストクラスのまま仲間になるのは驚きでした。It says Sosho we're supposed to Sosho is supposed to be essentially a retcon of the extra class. In order to balance out the disturbance or the quote unquote Yugami. What is Yugami? Yugami wa Yugami ってなんて言うんだろう Fluctuation. Like unhinged, right? Like it's something's not aligned, right? But right before that event started, we got ourselves a Sodom Beast Draco as a beast class itself to become an ally was quite the surprise for all of us. And then Nasu says, yes, that's FGO. We can't let go. Yeah, our axles are never let go. Essentially, Nasu says, we're going balls deep. It says, even Takeuchi says, when I heard that the class Beast Draco is gonna come out, when that suggestion came out for the first time, we were surprised as well. Nasu specifically says, I think it's high time for a Beast character, at least one of them, right? At least one of them to show up. それが何でもやるということなんだよ。That is the meaning of we'll do everything we got in our hands. The class card is specifically aimed, right? The class card is specifically aimed and mentioned for Draco usage. It says even though クラスカードもドラコ専用なんだ。まあ専用なのに後でひどい目にあったムーンキャンサーもキャンサーっているもいるんですけどね。So it says it's supposed to be Draco exclusive, but there I suppose a moon cancer that's supposed to be, that specific class that gotten quite the harsh treatment later. Ha 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 ha. Talking about Kiara, if you don't know. And then the interviewer asks the big question. It says, does that mean we can expect more beasts? Nasu says, most likely not. After all, this is very important. This beast exists in proper human history. Yeah. あれは凡人類史において唯一的に存在できるビーストなんです。Yeah, this character, right, is a proper human history based and is existent of beast. Right? So Nasu is specifically saying, okay, there's not going to be any more beast. Okay? No more beast. The reason why Draco is a beast, and she came in as a beast, is because in proper human history terms, she is a beast that can live in the realm of proper human history. And she existed of so. And then Takeuchi says, are you sure it's okay to say that? Okay, all right. Are you sure is it okay to say that? And then Nasu adds, I haven't told a lie. I specifically inserted a very important keyword after all. So Nasu's not lying, okay? And he doesn't say it's not. This is a maybe not, okay? It's a maybe not, right? It's not 100% no. This is more like a 70% no. All right, that's a 70% no juncture in Japanese word. All right, whenever you write things like this, is 70 to 80% no. Okay, 70 to 80. But it's not 100%. All right. And at the same time, he specifically says it's a beast that resides in proper human history. Right? It is an existence that is allowed to exist in proper human history as a beast. So the hint there is a beast that can live in proper human history, that exists and resided. And it's also story related too, right? But just understand that there's probably not going to be Beast anytime soon, but there's probably going to be a Beast soon. Not it's going to be rare as fuck. I think it's going to be like yearly, right? Maybe you'll see maybe one, if not one every 2 years. All right. This year's swimsuit event and the Holy Grail War that takes place in Edo. Can we talk about 毎年例外のイベントについてもお話を伺えると思います。 So can we talk about the usual, the every year swimsuit event? It says, as you already know, in this front page jacket, you see Morgan and Artoria Castor being depicted. You probably can guess the servants that might come soon as well. It says, this year, Nasu Kinoko went all in on the summer event, so please be excited for what is to come. Can I get a concept? Can you teach us the concept of showing Morgan and Artoria Castor in the front page? When depicting Morgan, and this is Takeuchi. Takeuchi says, when dressing up Morgan in swimsuit, in order of operations, naturally she'll be wearing a black, dark black colored swimsuit. And on top of that, you add an image of going on a vacation and made it light and light and awesome, right? Light and vibrant is what we wanted to go for. While giving while giving out multiple ideas and rough drafts. We came to a conclusion that she looks really nice, with a combination of white and gold combining together. And at the same time, half of it will be dress, half of it will be swimsuit. A little fancy dress and formal attire is what we went for. Nasu says, Morgan was a smooth process, but Artoria Castor was a rough one. And Takeuchi answered, I agree. We didn't want her to just be cute, and we wanted her to have unique feature as a swimsuit character. So we made multiple and immense amount of patterns ready. 最終的にはストーリーファッションの素材とセーラー服っぽいストリートファッションとセーラー服っぽい以前を取りこれています。夏の肌では活用な印象かつアルトリアキャスターからを大事にしながら第2第3にいろいろなネタを仕込んでいます。Oh, nice. So final concept is that we've added the street fashion with a sailor suit accuracy, right? セーラー服ってなんていうのかな like a sailor outfit, right? Like, to explain that, I have to show it. So, sailor outfit is like tummy showing, like half clothing, long sleeves. Sailor outfit is like you see on a sailor, right? But at the same time, you would see it's like your sailor outfit's like a long pants, long sleeve, but also mixed in with the streetwear. Hence, she has half leg, half jeaned insanity. Essentially, sailor uniform. We wanted to make sure, and the summer outfit has a very impressionable look. Yet we still kept the importance of Castoria. And on her second and third ascension, we've also added additional details that you might enjoy. And then the interviewer specifically says, last but not least, I would like to have some wording for Samurai Remnant. It says, in the game, Minamoto Musashi is in it. However, Musashi technically disappeared from the throne, the Heroes of the Throne in FGO, correct? And then Nasu specifically says, timeline-wise, this will be talking before Olympus. This is between the end of the timeline is between most likely after 1.5 is over. So this is between 1.5 and LB1. Okay? So Samurai Remnant's timeline, or actually not timeline, Musashi's timeline, that's actually more accurate. Musashi's timeline in Samurai Remnant is between after Shimosa, before LB1. Alright? It says, this reminds me, during the swimsuit warrior fairy whatever event, Musashi specifically named herself as Iori to get by. So that was a pretense afterwards.そうです。2019年には掃除があったので、弟子のイオリに、弟子にイオリがいる話を出しました。とにかく親友すごいんですよ。3これでいいだろう。あの死んだ目がいい。新しいフェイトに体験する思いに試してください。それでは、OK。And then Nasu says that's right. In 2019, we talked about it, and we had the thought process of it. Therefore, we started talking about Musashi having a disciple called Iori. And Takeuchi says the protagonist Iori is an amazing kind of character. The fact that a protagonist that can meddle and ここまでサーベントを食う主人公がいるだろうか. It's a protagonist that can eat a lot of the servants. That's a metaphor, right? Like Takeuchi saying, I love Iori. The character of Iori is PogChamp, right? He has that much of a charm, allure, right? He's awesome. And then Nasu specifically says his eyes that is dead is a good that eye that is looking that dead eye, right? The fish eye, the eye that we all know and sometimes love. So please, you're going to experience a new fate in that game, so hope you enjoy it when it comes. Takeuchi specifically was saying, ここまでサーベントを食う、主人公がいただろうか. It's one of those, he's saying that I didn't think there was a protagonist that can even bite into the servants, meaning that the character is so good that it doesn't get over trumped by like the individual servants, right? Like this character is as important as Iori, right? Like it's not he's saying that Iori's not a side character, right? Iori's such a great character that it doesn't get overshadowed. It doesn't get eaten by the existence of other servants. Is what it means. Oh, last but not least, can we hear your desires and what you want to see to ninth year and moving forward? So, Nasu, not Nasu, this is Takeuchi, okay? Takeuchi says LB7 was a tough battle. Every story, our maximum budget cost gets renewed. The reason that is because we're always constantly trying out new challenges. And because of the motivation is in the staff group, you'll probably see a new gimmick or awesomeモチベーション現場にあるから今年のスイムスーツイベントもそこが発揮されています。It says this year's swimsuit event will show the challenges that the new challenges that we've tackled. At the same time, the new series, which is Sosho, that started, while working through it, what we all aim for is the last finale in order to reach the final arc and final destination. We, the development team, will do our very best, so please keep on supporting us. And then Nasu goes, at the last, during the LB7, at the very end, when ORT was about to reach the sun, when looking back, everything else was shown as a crystallization of the entire realm, right? At the very first, the Lasengo, Team Lasengo specifically says, and asked me a silly question and said the ORT's movement and where he moved becomes crystallized, right? When they asked me that, I answered with no. Just like the world tree, aka the world pillar, aka the tree of emptiness, it needs to spread in real time. And in the very end, Mictoran has to be enveloped in the crystallization. When I answer them with that question, I cannot forget the face of despair that they've shown me. And the interviewer says, I can only imagine. Right? I can see it. Right? Because they're talking about this whole shit, right? It says when as a player, right? As a player, when I cleared Mictoran, when I looked at the map and looked at the map at the very last time, the hellscape of the crystallization of the world that I've witnessed, it made tears come out of my eyes. 20 years of this work, and we were able to finally reach this far. And now we can actually put an end to ORT. I can only thank the members for able to make my dream and continuously to make my dream come true. There are more exciting sequences to come. So please, everyone, if you can be with us and enjoy it together. The end. So, just understand, right, before I go to my final thoughts, when Takeuchi says, Shukyo, think of this as like, Temple of Solomon. It's not Temple of Solomon, okay? Just think of it as. Okay, think of it as Temple of Solomon, okay? It's just he's saying that because they have to explain Sosho first, and then they have to dismiss all the extra class first, or come up with a bullshit sequence to be like, oh, you know, like we can keep the extra class forehead. Um, so essentially, after Sosho is done, we're gonna head towards like 8 more sections, right? If not a little bit more, and then the Temple of Time 2.0 is gonna come. It's important after all. So not Takeuchi saying our budget cost increases every time because we're doing some next level shit every time. Um, Takeuchi is saying that prepare yourself for this summer event. The motivation is high, so you'll see it in this summer event. Pretty excited. That's a good word from Takeuchi. Takeuchi saying, listen, this summer event game is gonna be Pog. It better fucking be Pog. Nasu just straight up started fucking talking on his own. Um, how he just literally enjoys people's despair and suffering. Specifically saying that the Lasengal team says, hey, Nasu, the quote unquote monster that you're creating, wherever it moves, it'll leave a crystallization, right? And fucking Nasu said, no! He says, I want that shit real time. I want that shit spread real time. All around the world, you hear me? And in the end, it's gotta be crystallized. All the way to the sun. And then he can't forget the despaired face of Lasengal's staff hearing that. And at the same time, Nasu finishes the entire interview saying, continuing this thing for 20 years, we were able to reach this far. The fact that we were able to reach ORT, able to come my dream, like a lot of my dreams coming true is phenomenal. I hope everybody guys, there's gonna be more sequence to come, right? Nasu says we got some shit in store. So it says if you guys can stick around, enjoy otsukiyai, you know. You guys can just be with us. It would be greatly appreciated. Very nice. But anywho's, final thoughts. Uh, Overall, it's a positive interview, right? No serving coins, go fuck yourself. You know the classic. Um, Glad to hear Ark's little mini story here. They do clearly are working on the reverse side of the moon. They're fucking talking about it out in the open, no problem. We don't know if we're gonna get Tsukihime collab, which most likely not yet. They're probably gonna collab it after the reverse side kind of comes out. They're not gonna bring out the other arc. Don't worry about it. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. Don't type it in chat. Um, and then at the same time, they explained that archetypes each ascension. Is saying that first ascension was Princess Arc, which more Tsukihime. Ascension 2 is essentially a Tsukihime arc that actually went a specific route 3 years later. And then at the same time, third Ascension is an FGO situation of a what if arc, and that what if is if Arcrid just stayed in her castle for 1,000 plus years and just didn't do shit, nothing happened, right? Nothing happened to her, nothing happened to it. Kind of talked about Phantasm Moon, aka let's get some parodies, right? Would love to see more parodies. Nasu answers, if FGO's all calmed down and done, we'll probably think about it. Tezuka Toripoka kind of went quickly Sherlock Holmes, you know, cool, pretty PogChamp. Talk about how Tezuka was not supposed to be this influential and this big, but because the artist is by the character who made Final Fantasy VII, right? Kind of got PogChamp, and then Nasu being Nasu, he's just like Poogers, right? It is what it is. And then last but not least, apparently the Noble Phantasm was third ascension rough draft by our amazing artist because he said they said go crazy and he actually went crazy on it. And then talk about how in technicality Nasu started working on researching the fucking LB7 roughly around 2021. So that makes fucking sense. The fact that none of this shit fucking happened till 2022 is a thing. Talks about Olga Murray. Straight up tell you she's an LB7 exclusive character, so she ain't coming in as a servant. Nasu lies all the time. One day he'll take a shit and just, you know, change his mind. So there's still copium, but it's a hopium. So at this very moment, it is confirmed that she is just a LB7 limited character. Talks about David and how great David was. Kind of gives a little story to David, which was really cool. By the way, 24 hours. Put that into seconds. That's a lot of time that David felt for. Also talks about David likes to watch Clinton Eastwood movies. And then talking about ORT. ORT was fucking wildfire. It's pretty cool and kind of explains how ORT is broken. I mean, let's be honest, ORT is broken. Apparently, Alt Servolva was not in the script, but Nasu being Nasu, same with Olga Murray. He made the script longer than ever. It was supposed to be a one-parter, but because of Nasu's over-scripting, as always, became a two-parter. Not complaining. It's a banger, but it is what it is, right? It's the classic Nasu. Talks about the 4 pictures during the fight between ORT. Talks about Alt Sibalba. Simultaneously talks about a certain Dinos that's in the next level damage, which was PogChamp. Talks about Grand Foreigner and talks about more about our character Kamasoso, which was nice. And talks about Melty Blood when the Mystic Eye activation occurred. It's exact sound effects as Mystic Eye activation in Melty Blood type Lumina, so that was kind of pog. Starting to talk about Paper Moon, kind of PogChamp. They were thinking about soccer series first, but they canceled it. They didn't want to add any more CCC elements, so they took all the CCC elements out. Essentially, the basic concept of Fate Stay Night and Fate Zero. Their essence was being involved in the Paper Moon, which is PogChamp. Good news. Takeuchi specifically says more staff members are increasing, so that's kind of good news, right? My boy interviewer is not satisfied with just 5-star Medusa. Straight up asked for swimsuit Medusa, my man. They're thinking about it, right? They're thinking about it. Talks about quote unquote extra class. Talks about what Sosho's all about. It is confirmed that it's going to be in Tokyo. It is what it is. Yeah, talks about Shosho. Shosho's going to be all about the extra classes, except Moon Cancer, Pretender, and Shielder, because you know Shielder's already in the game. Talks about how, speaking of extra class, Draco, blah, blah, blah. Nasu gives you a hint that kind of says, oh, there's not going to be any more beasts, but, you know, proper human history beast is perfectly available. And, you know, everybody and their mom is just like, Nasu's lying. Be like, Nasu's technically not lying. Because it's using his play on words of anything that existed in history that is proper human history is going to be a beast. So any beast potential of human history can be in proper human history. So last but not least, talks about swimsuit events, saying that Nasu went balls deep in story. Simultaneously, it's going to be a cool gimmick. Takeuchi's kind of saying that, so I'm kind of excited. He doesn't say cool gimmick, but he's saying that the motivation to challenge new things is going to be shown in this year's summer. So that's kind of pog. You're going to see more different Castoria Ascension in second and third Ascension. Apparently, there's got more details on it, so it's kind of pog. Fate Stay Samurai, we've got now a timeline that says Musashi between Shimosa and LB1, so that's kind of PogChamp. Overall, I think it was a good interview. Glad to hear that Nasu's just not depressed. That's kind of a PogChamp. Glad that Nasu's low-key kind of off his high horse on LB6 on the interview. He's hyped for Sosho simultaneously, the summer event, and was able to give us a little more detail on LB7, so that was cool. I think overall was a good interview. I enjoyed it. I mean, these guys, yeah, it was cool. Like, get to hear. Glad to hear that Nasu's not afraid to answer these bullshit questions, right? Of why a divine spirit was able to become grand, but at the same time, Nasu being Nasu, fucking, you know, adding exception to his own fucking rules and whatnot, blah, blah, blah. But then again, FGO is, you know, FGO is a what if and a what if and a what if. So, like, everything and anything is possible. ORT, you know, ORT is, it is what it is. So it's understandable. So they're currently working on Sosho 2, so probably not going to be available till end of the month. Not end of the month, I mean end of the year. But, I mean, that's okay. Every 6 months, if we're going to get a story, I'm okay with it. Other than that, it's kind of weird because they're not talking about, like, any other events. You know, like, no new hints and whatnot, etc., etc. But yeah, I think this was a lot of Nasu talking, which was good. Glad to see Nasu being more talkative than ever. And yeah, you can kind of see Nasu's true nature here in the last two sentences. He's kind of an asshole. And if you don't know, Nasu's kind of a guy where he goes, I wrote a story, but your art's so good, I gotta add another story. But let me add this another story, and I need this gimmick ASAP. Right? He's kind of that guy. So it is what it is. What place is Summer A taking on? It's Summerfest. It's Summerfest too, so it's like Hawaii or some sort of random ass island. It could just be, instead of Hawaii, it's in fucking Britain. But other than that, that concludes. Like I said, overall, love the interview. FGO ain't dying, right? A lot of people are saying FGO, KEKW, dead game, but we popping off still, right? Sales-wise, they're numero uno as always. Swimsuit events definitely is just going to skyrocket their fucking venture capital as always. I mean, there's a lot of plate already, right? And I don't know. To me, as a Fate fan, working this shift for 8 years straight, it's great, fantastic to hear. To me, this is more about story detail than the future. But to me, I think it was a good interview. I enjoyed it quite a lot. I ain't gonna lie, I'm a boomer now. So when it comes to FGO, I'm 100% boomer. I miss the reruns. I miss the 2-week, 2-event sequence instead of the 1-week, 1-month sequence. At the same time, I just feels like caring for player base definitely diminished. If you've noticed, Nasu and Takeuchi didn't even talk about player base, right? They're talking about story and players' perspectives. But they never really talked about for players. It's almost as if these two just kind of want this shit to be over with. But they're not going to say that out loud, right? And yeah, out of all this interview, boys and girls, Takeuchi slipped, and thank God he slipped, because he specifically says, right, we've got more members. Let's fucking go. Right? It says right here. It says, luckily, Lasengle's staff members increased. So people who can draw characters also increased. So it was a great timing. Right there. Feels good, man. Alright. That is the biggest W that we can ever hear from this interview. So, hope you guys enjoyed the stream / translation. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit that follow button and don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. And I usually stream on Twitch daily. At the very moment, I got some complication in my IRL life, so I'll probably let you guys know on Twitter or Discord. So don't forget El Spaghetti. Other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video.